The evening sun rested behind the tall maple trees as the quiet suburbs of Minnesota wrapped themselves in a soft, warm glow. Aunty Mira stood near the wide kitchen window, her silver-streaked hair tied in a neat bun and her calm eyes watching the driveway. With a mix of patience and experience, she had lived enough life to sense when a storm was coming, even if the sky looked clear. Inside the house, her older brother David and his wife Lena were trying their best to settle into a peaceful routine, but things had begun to change ever since David's younger sister Rachel moved in for a few weeks, claiming she needed a break from her hectic city job. Aunty Mira knew breaks were rarely this dramatic. Rachel walked in with too much luggage, too much attitude, and far too much interest in Lena, who had always been soft-spoken, gentle, and unwilling to confront. Rachel had a smile that looked friendly at first, but Aunty Mira saw the edge hidden inside it, a sharpness, a hunger for control. She had seen this kind of confidence many times when people believed age made someone weaker easier to push around, and Rachel saw Lena exactly like that, an easy target. Every morning Rachel slipped into the kitchen acting cheerful while poking tiny remarks at Lena, remarks sugar-coated on top, but bitter underneath. Lena would quietly ignore them, but Aunty Mira noticed every reaction, every tightened breath, every silent swallow. When David left for work, Rachel made her moves, taking over the living room, taking over the music volume, taking over the schedule, taking over the attention, even advising Lena how to run her own home. It would have been funny if it was not so disrespectful. Aunty Mira sat in her favorite cushioned chair observing everything without saying a word. Her stillness alone held authority, but Rachel was too young, too confident, too unaware to recognize the strength in silence. One afternoon, Lena stood by the laundry room door looking small, almost shrinking, as Rachel lectured her about how the house should be organized. Aunty Mira walked in slow steps, her presence quiet yet powerful. The moment her shadow entered the hallway, Rachel paused just a little, not out of respect, but out of surprise. Why was Mira always watching? Why was she always calm? How much did she understand? What did she know? Lena looked at Mira with tired eyes, silently asking for support. Mira gently placed a hand on her shoulder, not speaking, but offering an anchor, a stable ground that Rachel could not shake. The house had shifted. Rachel felt it, Lena felt it, Mira felt it. A storm was coming, yes, but not the one Rachel imagined, because she did not know yet what real family power looked like. And she definitely did not know who she had underestimated. Morning light spread across the living room as Rachel strutted in like she owned the place, her ponytail swinging and her voice loud enough to wake the whole block. She walked straight to the coffee maker, pushing Lena gently aside, as if she were moving a piece of furniture. Lena stepped back quietly, her fingers tightening around the edge of the counter. She was never the type to confront, especially with someone who carried the confidence of youth like a shield, but Aunty Mira sat at the dining table sipping her herbal tea, her eyes calm but sharp as ice, ready to notice every shift, every imbalance. Rachel turned toward Lena with a grin. Lena, you seriously need to change the way you run mornings around here. You make everything so slow and boring. I swear this house would be so different if you actually tried doing things the right way. The right way? Rachel meant her way. Lena kept her voice soft. I do things the way they work for us. Rachel let out a dramatic laugh. For you maybe, but David deserves better. His home should feel energetic, not quiet like some retirement place. Aunty Mira gently placed her teacup down without making a sound. The room suddenly felt like it was holding its breath. David came downstairs, fixing his tie, unaware of the tension. Rachel immediately wrapped her arm around him, steering him away from the kitchen. You work so hard, big brother. You deserve a lively home, not all this slow routine stuff we have going on. David smiled, awkwardly brushing her comment off. He loved his sister, but he trusted Lena more than anything. Still, he felt the strain building. He sensed something off, but could not explain it. After he left for work, Rachel turned back to Lena and began rearranging the living room, pulling cushions off the couch, shifting tables, wiping surfaces with unnecessary force, as if trying to erase the calm energy Lena had built in the house. Lena whispered, Rachel, you do not need to do all that. Rachel smirked. Actually, I do, because someone has to make this place better. She kept moving things, even lifting a framed photo of Lena and David, their anniversary picture. She tilted her head, studying it with a look that carried hidden judgment. Then she set it down on a lower shelf, almost out of sight. That was the moment Lena felt the sting sharper than any words. That picture belonged in the center. Rachel knew it. She just wanted control. From the hallway, Aunty Mira stepped in slowly, each move deliberate, each breath steady. When she spoke, her voice held a firmness so grounded it stopped Rachel mid-step. "Rachel, child, sit down for a moment." Rachel blinked, confused by the tone, a tone she was not used to hearing from someone older. She dropped the cushion in her hand and sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. Lena watched from the side, heart thumping, unsure what was about to happen. Aunty Mira looked at Rachel with a gaze that reached deeper than anger, deeper than irritation, a gaze that weighed actions, motives, attitudes, a gaze that cut right to the truth. "You have been in this house a few days, child, and in those few days you have created more noise than harmony, more disturbance than help, more ego than respect." Rachel opened her mouth, but Mira raised one hand, and for the first time Rachel stayed silent. "This is your brother's home," Mira continued. "This is Lena's home, and you're a guest. A guest does not rearrange the heart of a home. A guest does not push her way into someone else's peace. A guest does not forget respect." Rachel stared back, stubborn but shaken. She had not expected anyone, especially this older, quiet woman, to speak with such steady power. Lena stood still, watching something shift in the air, a line being drawn, a boundary finally taking shape. Rachel looked away for just a moment, but Mira saw it, the flicker of guilt, the smallest crack in her confidence. The storm had begun to form, but it was not Mira who would break, it was Rachel who would learn. And she had no idea how much more was coming. The day moved slowly after that moment, and the house felt different. The air carried a quiet strength that came from Aunty Mira, even though she barely spoke a word. After the morning confrontation, Rachel tried to pretend nothing had affected her, but Mira had planted something deeper than a warning, a mirror, a reflection of her own behavior. Still, Rachel was not ready to accept anything. In the afternoon, Rachel sat on the porch, scrolling on her phone, kicking the step lightly with her sneakers. Lena walked out with a tray of iced tea, the sunlight warm on her shoulders. She placed the glasses gently on the small table, hoping to keep the peace. Rachel watched her with narrowed eyes. "I guess this is your way of apologizing for earlier." Lena blinked. "Apologizing for what?" "For making things so dramatic when Mira lectured me," Rachel said, flipping her hair. "She talked to me like I am some kid who needs guidance, and you just stood there looking all helpless like I am some villain." Lena took a slow breath, trying to remain calm. "I did not ask her to say anything." Rachel scoffed. "That is the problem. You never ask for anything, you just hide behind silence and act like you are the victim when someone actually takes charge." A soft rustle came from the doorway, and Rachel looked up to find Aunty Mira stepping onto the porch, her presence firm but gentle. She folded her hands calmly and stood beside Lena, not saying a word, yet letting her presence weigh every corner of the space. Rachel shifted, uncomfortably feeling judged yet again, but this time she tried to escape it. She changed the subject quickly. "Hey Lena, by the way, I invited a few friends over tonight. Should be fun. We need some life in this house." Lena stared at her. "A few friends tonight?" "Yeah, why not? This place needs energy. Besides, David will not mind. He is too chill about everything." Before Lena could respond, Mira spoke, her voice the controlled strength of someone who had faced decades of storms. "This is not your decision, child." Rachel laughed, trying to hide her discomfort. "Actually, it is. If I live here, then my friends can come here too." Mira stepped forward, her tone steady. "You are a guest. A guest does not invite people into another woman's home without her consent." Rachel rolled her eyes. "You keep talking like this house belongs only to Lena. It is David's house too. And David trusts Lena with it," Mira replied, "and I trust her too. You should learn to do the same." Rachel grabbed her phone tightly, her pride fighting back, but her words had lost their fire. Her voice trembled just a bit. Mira noticed it. Lena noticed it. Rachel noticed it the most. Suddenly, David's car turned into the driveway. Rachel immediately straightened up, as if preparing to shift the blame or twist the story. She rushed toward the steps. "Hey, big brother, guess what? I planned a fun thing for tonight." But David only gave her a tired look. His day had been long, and he sensed tension before even reaching the porch. Mira exchanged a silent glance with him, a glance filled with meaning, the way only older siblings could communicate. David looked at Rachel. "We can talk about plans inside first. Let us just keep things calm." Rachel felt her control slipping, losing power, losing territory. Her confidence cracked deeper than she expected, and for the first time, she felt something she hated feeling: uncertainty. Inside the house, Lena placed the glasses back on the kitchen counter, her hands slightly trembling. Mira rested a hand on her arm, and Lena finally exhaled the breath she had been holding all day. Rachel stood at the edge of the room, unsure whether to step forward or step back, her mind racing, her pride bruised, her ego bending in ways she had never known. And the lesson had barely even begun. The house carried a heavy quiet, that evening, the kind of quiet that follows after boundaries begin forming. Lena stood near the kitchen island, preparing dinner, her movements careful yet slowly growing steadier. A small confidence had begun to rise in her, the kind that grows when someone finally stands beside you instead of in front of you. Rachel walked in, pacing with restless energy. She could not settle. She hated how Mira had confronted her, hated how David seemed distant, and hated most of all how Lena looked stronger instead of smaller. The shift annoyed her more than she wanted to admit. She leaned against the counter, watching Lena chop vegetables with her usual gentle rhythm. "You know you should be thanking me. I am trying to bring some fun into this house." Lena kept her focus on the cutting board. "What you call fun feels more like control, Rachel." Rachel froze. The word hit her harder than she expected. Control. She opened her mouth to snap back, but Mira entered the kitchen at that very moment, moving with calm certainty, her presence soaking the tension out of the air. Mira walked to the stove, stirring the simmering pot as if she had cooked in this kitchen for years without ever claiming ownership. She did not have to. She belonged wherever she stood because of the grace she carried. Rachel folded her arms. "Say whatever you want, but this place is too quiet and boring. I am helping." Mira lifted her head softly, facing her child. "You cannot help a house by shaking its foundation. You help a house by respecting the heart that keeps it standing." Rachel stared, unsure whether to roll her eyes or listen. The problem was Mira's voice had a way of sinking past stubbornness, past pride, into a part of the heart people preferred to keep guarded. Before Rachel could respond, David entered, looking tired but watchful. He placed his keys on the counter and looked at all three women, his family, each with different forms of strength and emotion. Rachel quickly stepped forward, trying to regain control. "David, I invited a few friends tonight to lift the mood. I guess Mira has a problem with that." David rubbed his forehead. "Rachel, you cannot invite people without checking with the person who runs the home." Rachel scoffed. "You mean Lena?" David nodded. "Yes, I mean Lena." Something shattered inside Rachel at those words, not something painful, something awakening, a truth she had refused to accept until now, a truth she never saw because she never wanted to see it. Lena looked down shyly. Mira gave her a gentle nod, urging her to speak for herself. Lena lifted her head. "Rachel, I do not mind guests, but not today, not when the house does not feel peaceful, and not when they are invited without asking me first." Rachel felt heat rise to her cheeks. Her voice cracked a little. "You two always act like I am the problem. I came here because I needed support, and now everyone treats me like I am some storm destroying everything." Mira walked closer, her step soft, but her presence immense. "Child, storms do not know they are storms until they see the damage they cause, but storms can change when they understand their own strength." Rachel swallowed hard, her throat tightened, because she was not expecting wisdom, she was expecting anger. She was ready for a fight, but not for truth. David stepped next to Lena, placing a hand gently on her back, a gesture small but loud. He looked at Rachel. "You are always welcome here, but not if you hurt the peace we build." Rachel looked away, blinking fast, her confidence cracking, but her heart softening. A small part of her felt exposed, another part felt understood for the first time. She whispered, "Then what am I supposed to do here? I feel invisible sometimes. I feel like no one listens to me. I feel like I do not matter." The room fell still. Lena took a step closer. "Rachel, you matter, but you cannot matter by pushing others down. You matter by standing with us, not over us." Rachel lowered her gaze. The truth settled deeper than any lecture. She felt young in that moment, not by age, but by understanding. Mira placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, and for the first time Rachel did not pull away. "You are not invisible, child," Mira said, "but you must learn to see others too." Rachel felt her breath shift, her heart soften, her defenses drop just a little. She nodded, slow, small, but meaningful. For the first time since she arrived, she listened without arguing. And for the first time, the house felt like it was breathing again. The next morning, sunlight spilled gently across the living room, as if the house itself was trying to ease the tension left from the night before. Rachel came downstairs slowly, her steps softer than usual. Her usual boldness, dimmed but not defeated, something inside her had shifted, not fully, but enough to be felt. Lena stood by the dining table arranging breakfast quietly, her hands moved with their usual grace. But today there was a lightness in her shoulders, as if she had retrieved a piece of herself that had been slipping away. Aunty Mira sat in her favorite chair reading the morning paper, her calm aura grounding the whole room. Rachel hesitated at the bottom of the stairs, unsure whether she should walk in or pretend to stay busy somewhere else. She finally took a deep breath and stepped into the room. "Morning," she said in a small voice that surprised even her. Lena looked up and offered a soft smile. "Good morning, Rachel." Mira gave a gentle nod, acknowledging her presence without judgment, and somehow that small gesture made Rachel's chest loosen just a bit. Rachel sat down at the table, fidgeting with the edge of a napkin. She had never been good at apologies, especially when she felt misunderstood, but today something stronger than pride spoke inside her, a need to clear the air, a need to belong the right way, not the controlling way. She took a slow breath. "I think I messed up yesterday." Lena paused, her fingers resting on a plate. Mira lowered her newspaper, her eyes warm and patient. Rachel continued, "I never meant to disrespect your home or make you feel small. I just thought being loud meant being helpful. I thought taking charge meant showing love, but maybe I was doing the opposite." Lena stepped closer and sat across from her. "You were trying to feel important, Rachel. I understand that, but importance should never come from hurting someone else." Rachel looked down, her voice trembling. "I know, I feel lost sometimes, and when I feel lost I try to act like I have everything together. If I control the room, I do not have to feel the chaos inside me." Mira gently folded the paper and leaned forward, her voice flowed like a calm river. "You are not alone in that, child. Every person at some point fights their own storms. Some hide, some shout, some run, some control, but the strongest ones learn to pause, to listen, to breathe." Rachel blinked, fighting back tears. She had never heard someone speak to her like that, not with softness, not with truth, not with patience. David entered the room just then, fixing the cuffs of his shirt. He looked around, sensing a fragile moment forming. "Is everything all right?" Rachel stood up quickly, wiping her eyes. "Yeah, actually, I need to say something." David nodded, waiting. Rachel swallowed hard. "I am sorry, Lena. I acted like this house needed my energy when all it needed was respect. I treated you like you were weak when you were the only calm person here. I made everything about me when it was never about me to begin with." Lena reached out and held her hand gently. "You were overwhelmed, Rachel, but you do not have to face anything alone. We are family, not competition." David walked forward, wrapping his arm around his younger sister. "Listen, I love you, but you cannot bulldoze through people just to feel seen. We see you already, you just have to let us." Rachel nodded, her eyes glassy, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am trying." Mira stood up slowly, placing a steady hand on Rachel's back. "You are not trying, child. You are learning, and learning is more powerful than pretending." Rachel finally let out a long, shaky breath, the kind that carries out all the tension and pulls in a new kind of clarity. For the first time, she did not feel like she had to win the room. Instead, she simply wanted to be part of it. Lena squeezed her hand. Mira offered her quiet strength. David pulled her into a gentle, familial embrace. For the first time since she arrived, Rachel felt something real, a new beginning, a second chance, a soft place to stand. And the house felt warmer than it had in days. Later that afternoon, the house felt different, as if the walls themselves had relaxed after days of tension. Rachel moved through the rooms more quietly, noticing things she never cared to notice before: the softness in Lena's steps, the calm rhythm in the kitchen, the grounding presence of Mira, who never needed to raise her voice to be heard. The peace she once tried to change now felt like something she wanted to protect. Lena was folding laundry in the living room when Rachel approached, slowly carrying a small basket of clothes she had washed on her own, unsure if she should offer to help or simply place it down. Lena looked up, surprised but pleased. Rachel set the basket next to her and sat quietly without trying to control anything. Lena smiled gently. "Thank you, Rachel." Rachel nodded. "It felt like the least I could do after everything." Lena shook her head softly. "Helping is not about making up for things, it is about sharing the space kindly." Rachel took in those words, letting them settle inside her like something she had needed to hear long ago. A little later, David returned home earlier than usual, walking through the door with a piece that had been missing the last few days. He found Rachel sitting at the dining table with a notebook open and a thoughtful expression. Instead of taking over the room, she simply coexisted in it. David smiled. "This is new." Rachel shrugged shyly. "Just thinking about what I want to do next, not just here, but in general." David sat across from her. "Want to talk about it?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "I guess I have been avoiding myself for a long time. I keep searching for control, because I am scared of standing still. When I slow down, I feel all the things I never dealt with, so I make noise instead, but noise is not the same as living." David placed a hand on her shoulder, proud of her quiet honesty. Mira heard the conversation from the hallway and stepped in with her gentle stride, her voice warm like evening sunlight. Child, understanding your own heart is the beginning of real strength, the kind that does not shout, the kind that does not break others, the kind that builds. Rachel looked at Mira with new eyes, seeing not just an older woman, but a guide, a pillar, a presence she had misjudged since the moment she arrived. She lowered her voice. Mira, I want to learn from you if you will teach me. Mira smiled with a softness that held decades of wisdom. I do not teach, child, I simply live. You will learn by living beside us. Rachel breathed deeply, the anxiety in her chest loosening its grip. Later that evening, the whole family sat together on the back porch, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. Lena brought out lemonade and snacks. David played soft music, and Mira knitted quietly, her presence filling the space with calm. Rachel looked around and felt something she had not felt in a long time, belonging, not the kind you demand, the kind that grows naturally when you respect others and let others respect you. She leaned her head against the porch rail and let her voice drift softly. I am glad I came here, even with the rough parts. One think I needed this more than I knew. Lena smiled. You needed peace, and you needed to see that you could be part of it. Rachel nodded. And I needed someone to stop me before I became someone I did not want to be. Mira looked at her with wise, gentle eyes. You were not becoming someone else, child, you were simply lost, and now you have found your path again. Rachel felt a warm tear slip down her cheek, not from pain, but from the quiet relief of finally understanding herself. As the sky dimmed and the first stars appeared, Rachel felt something shift inside her, not a crack, not a doubt, but a beginning, a new version of herself forming, stronger, calmer, wiser. And this time she knew she was ready for the next part of her journey. The next morning brought a soft, cool breeze through the windows, as if the world itself was preparing for something new. Rachel woke earlier than usual, her heart lighter, her mind clearer. She walked downstairs, expecting the usual silence, but instead, she found Mira already in the kitchen preparing a calm, warm breakfast, Lena helping beside her, and David sipping his coffee with a peaceful smile. Rachel paused at the doorway, taking in the scene. It felt like a picture of family she had always wanted, but never knew how to be part of until now. Mira glanced at her with a soft, knowing smile. Come, child, sit with us. Rachel sat quietly, her presence gentle, her movements thoughtful. Lena placed a plate in front of her without hesitation, and this time Rachel accepted it with genuine gratitude rather than entitlement. David leaned forward. We were thinking of doing something today, something as a family, maybe take a long drive, maybe visit the lakeside. You interested? Rachel felt warmth blooming in her chest. Yeah, I would like that, I really would. After breakfast, they all stepped outside into the bright, fresh morning, but just as they headed toward the car, a voice called from across the street. It was a neighbor, Mrs. Coleman, an older woman with a curious nature and a habit of assuming things before asking. She approached with her usual sharp tone. Well, looks like the house is busy these days, Rachel. I heard you have been stirring up quite a bit of noise since you arrived. Rachel stiffened, embarrassed, heat rising to her cheeks. She had always reacted defensively to comments like this, snapping back with pride, but today she hesitated, unsure how to respond. Before she could speak, Mira stepped forward, her posture straight, her presence quiet, but commanding. She smiled politely. Mrs. Coleman, family sometimes goes through moments, family sometimes gets noisy, family sometimes relearns itself, but what matters is how it grows together afterward. Mrs. Coleman blinked, caught off guard, her voice softened. Oh, I did not mean anything harmful, I just heard. Mira nodded gently. Then hear this next part, child. This house is strong, this family is strong, and our doors are open not for gossip, but for growth. Mrs. Coleman lowered her gaze, mumbled a quick apology, and walked away. Rachel exhaled a breath she did not realize she had been holding and turned to Mira. You did not have to defend me. Mira placed a warm hand on her shoulder. Child, family stands together, and today you stood with us, so we stand with you. Lena stepped closer, offering a gentle smile. You are not the storm anymore, Rachel, you are part of the calm too. Rachel felt her throat tighten with emotion. She had never felt protected like this, never felt seen in a way that did not expect perfection, only honesty. They all got into the car and drove out toward the lakeside. The sun shimmered over the water, sparkling like thousands of small promises. Lena spread out a blanket, while David set out snacks, and Mira sat with her feet touching the cool grass, her expression serene. Whispered, thank you, Mira, for everything. Mira placed an arm around her shoulder. You did the work, child. I only reminded you of your own power. Rachel breathed in deeply, the air fresh, the sun warm, the family behind her strong and united. For the first time, she felt she belonged, not because she forced her presence, but because she earned her place with honesty, humility, and growth. They all spent the afternoon laughing, sharing stories, feeling the warmth of the day wrap around them like a gentle embrace, and when they returned home that evening the house felt different, not because it had changed, but because Rachel finally understood it. This was not a house to control, this was a home to cherish. And as she stepped inside, she whispered quietly to herself and to the walls that had witnessed her journey, "I am home now." And this time she meant it with every part of her heart.